Hello and welcome to a new episode of Foodocracy for Her. And this time I'm going to speak to you, or rather take you to Kolkata. It's a city in which I've grown up in, but today I'm of course in Mumbai. And in case you're wondering, no, we are not going to speak to home chefs in this case, nor are we going to speak to about Bengali food, but I'm going to speak to you about something which is equally close to the heart of most Bengalis, which is cha or tea. And before I introduce our guests, which is Aradhita and Devanshi, before that, I'm going to tell you a little story which is relevant to them, which is the story of this. I'm not going to tilt it towards you. So you have to believe that there's some tea in it. If I tilt it, it's going to fall on my laptop and I can't afford to buy another one right now. Yes, so I'm Bengali. I'm not a tea drinker. So that's possible because when I was growing up, my mom used to say that tea is not something for the youngsters to have. Nisha ho jabe, you'll get addicted. So I was not allowed tea as a child. And then when I was in eighth standard, she allowed me to have a bit of coffee so that I drink my milk. So since then, I became a coffee drinker. Coffee, then cappuccino, and now espresso. And the only tea I drink is chamomile. No, I mean I do drink a good Darjeeling, or if I'm at the Taj tea house over here, have some tea, or if I'm out on the streets at the Irani cafe, I'll have some chai, or in Kolkata, I'd got on a nice food walk a couple of years back, Calcutta photo tours, and this area beside where Bo Barracks, where we gone to a Chaika dukan. So all that is fine, but otherwise it's not my first choice. Now, if you remember in Foodocracy for Her, which I started in May 2020, I would often sip on a glass of nimbu pani while doing the interview. And then later move to an espresso, which would be a decaf if it's in the afternoon. And then Aradhita was in touch with me on Instagram, and she told me about her company, which she runs with Devanshi. It's called Chaika. Yeah. So she said that I want you to try these premixes. Now, I'm not a stranger to premix in tea or coffee. So I remember 10, 12 years back in Malaysia, I came across the Old Town coffee premixes, and instantly they both studied in Singapore, so they might know it. So, it would come in combinations of coffee with milk, without milk, with sugar, without sugar. So I used to buy those sachets, and I think I used to work in Nielsen at that time, and market research agencies or any office has horrible coffee, so I would have those sachets. Much later, nowadays, we get, I think, a sachet from a company called Girnar, which my mom-in-law really loves. It's like a mix. So I said that two things, Aradhita. One is I don't drink tea, and two is I try to avoid sugar. So she said, no, we have one which is a diet version without sugar, and they try the other three. And one thing which I've known is that, when you have a rasta cha or a masala cha or a Parsi choy, which is with the lemongrass and all that, you need that little bit of sugar, just as you do with filter coffee. Copy. So one day while doing a chat, Foodocracy for Her, I took out. I'll show you which one I took out. I love the packs, huh? By the way,
Thank
diet
you.
cha, diet cha. Where's diet cha? Where's diet? Masala tea. I think it's this one. Yeah, diet masala tea. Sorry. So I took out this one, this diet masala tea. So which has a dumbbell in it, but it didn't come with the pack. So I'm going to sort of take the case for that. But I'm just seeing pieces. So there's ginger, there's cardamom, there is mint leaves, some sort of leaves in the pack. So I'm just going with it, but nice sort of stuff. And it's diet masala. So what I did was I took a bit of my own sugar, palm sugar from a place called Biobasics, so that I could control the sugar. And it's very nice. So the next 2, 3 Foodocracy episodes, for her episodes, I did having that. And the last time I had a bit of a sore throat. So then I took this one. This is a Firangi chai. Firangi chai has lemongrass in it. And I don't know why it's Firangi, but we'll ask them. But actually, the Parsi is over here, and I'm married to a Parsi. So the Parsi tea is famous for having lemongrass in it, the choy.
Yeah.
And then again, last time when I was interviewing someone in Foodocracy for again at this, then I suddenly said that it's a bit silly thing that I'm interviewing all these people for Foodocracy for and drinking their chai, and here these two ladies with very diverse and interesting backgrounds running a tea company. and why haven't I interviewed them then? So here we are. And before I start, if, with your permission, Aradhita and Devanshi, I'm going to share one little story about this entire concept of Irani chai, which
Sure.
doesn't seem to be one of your packs. So, one day I'd gone to this place called Lucky. I don't know if you're familiar with Mumbai, but there's a place in Bandra. It's a Irani restaurant famous for its biryani. And I happened to meet Mr. Shahnawaz, whose father had come from Iran and set it up. So he's now no more. And his son Moin also runs it. So Moin introduced me to his father Shahnawaz because I went to sort of understand a bit about how it started and all that. So he told me that, do you know that Irani chai is not Irani chai? So I said, but what do you mean? So he said that, well, if you see how tea is had in Iran, it's actually black tea without milk.
Yes.
That's my cat, Baby Loaf, sort of agreeing with me. And then it's the British who introduced the concept of milk and sugar to tea, and then they were the ones who promoted tea in India and tea drinking, and that's how it became. And then that's what the Iranis would serve in the Irani cafes, and that's become what's known as Irani chai. And the Iranis would, of course, do whatever the British would do too, because that's what people aspired to a couple of 100 years back. And I've actually lived in Iran as a child when I was 5 years old, many years back before the revolution. But I do remember like local Iranians coming to our house, and they would have tea in these little thimble sort of thing. And then when we went to Istanbul a few years back, it was black tea, black tea. Having said that, this is Foodocracy for her. You've heard too much from me. So let me introduce to you Ardhita Agarwal and Devanshi, and they're joining in from Kolkata. And welcome on board. They're the people for Chaika. So and they've got very interesting backgrounds. From what I understood, they were studied in the same school in Calcutta. Then they moved out and they studied in Singapore and I think in the UK. But let me not second guess. Let me ask you. So Aditya, do you want to start by introducing yourself and then tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am from Calcutta. I studied my entire school life in Calcutta in the Martinia. And then I moved to Singapore. So I studied there at National University of Singapore and also for a while in France. And post that, I started working in Singapore as a trader in interest rate swaps at BNP Paribas.
Wow.
So I was working there for around 1.5 years. But I've always sort of had a passion for tea, and my family has been in the tea business for a very long time. So eventually, I quit my job and moved back, and I am now a certified tea taster.
Wow.
And yeah, and I'm also managing a tea estate while running Chaika. But like when, Devanshi and I connected over thinking of a product to launch, we thought of, doing something new age and not the same old tea. So
Wow.
that's how all of
So
this
So when you
started.
said your family was into tea,
Yeah.
did they have an estate or were they like traders at the auction house or exporters or something like that?
So my grandfather had, like since my grandfather's time, we've had a tea estate,
Mhm.
and
And is that
he
in
still
Bengal, Darjeeling or Assam?
Bengal. So it's Duars. So it's not Darjeeling
Duars,
tea,
yes.
it's Duars. Yeah,
Duars, yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
go ahead. You
it's
were telling me.
yeah, so it's basically the thing he is most passionate about. And he'd been telling me for a while that, you should come back, you should help me with this, you should help me with this. So eventually I kind of succumbed to that blackmailing as well, and the emotional blackmailing, I should say, and moved back. And yeah, I was always passionate about tea, and a tea drinker. Like I can't get out of bed without 2 cups of tea. So
Yeah,
it seemed like
my
the
mom's like
natural
that.
thing to do.
My mom's like that. And tea taster is pretty cool. Where did you learn that? Was that in India?
Yeah. In India only, at J. Thomas. So J. Thomas is the biggest tea broking house in India,
Wow.
and they conduct these courses as well. They teach
Hmm.
like people like anybody who's interested in the
Wow.
business. So I learned over there, and yeah.
I think one of the most known names in advertising was also involved at that when he was this thing. I'm going to just ask my this thing. Sorry for a second. I just went off camera to ask my wife. So Mr. Piyush Pandey, who's like this legendary advertising person, in the early days of his career, he was a tea taster.
Oh,
And
wow.
if I remember right, I read his book also, Pandemonium, and he's referred to that and his experiences there. So how magnificent is that? So tea taster to advertising person, and then we've got financial trader and to now tea maker. What about you, Devanshi? I'm sure your story is equally interesting.
So I think like my story is very similar to Aradhita. We were in the same school, born and brought up in Calcutta. I would say like as we had a conversation earlier, Marwari like by so I have the entrepreneurial genes, but I'm also I feel like I'm very Bengali by passion. So I think that's a part of like Calcutta that's in me. So I went to Singapore Management University, studied economics and finance, went for a semester to the US, studied entrepreneurship at Babson University, came back, worked in Singapore for a while for around 2.5 years, and worked again in finance. I think that's what I was saying. We're very similar. Worked as a portfolio analyst with Cambridge Associates. And it was when I was working with Cambridge Associates, I worked a lot with the alternative investment space, especially startups. And that's when I was like, okay, I think I want to start up something on my own. And if I don't try it right now, I'll never try it later on.
Uh,
It was just
uh,
one of those decisions which brought you back. And simultaneously, it was a big joke in my house because I come from a tea family as well, but I
hmm.
don't know how to make chai. So it was,
Have you heard of this product or company called Chaika? It's very easy. You take it out and you sort of heat water in the cup in the microwave, which is what I did. You cut this, put it in the cup, add the hot water. Not that tough.
I know. That sounds
Sorry, to
good.
purists will kill us, but
I think I'm gonna try it next time.
you're
So
joking. I'm sure
that
you've tried them.
happened and moved back and ended up
Huh.
meeting Aradhita, and we were like, okay, you know what? Let's start out on this entrepreneurial journey. I
Hmm.
know we have the tea expertise, we come from tea backgrounds, but let's not traditionally be where the industry's already been. Let's
Hmm.
move a step ahead. There are a lot of millennials like us who don't know how to make chai. We love it, but we don't know how to make chai, or we're just lazy.
Yeah.
The other thing which I feel is that we've grown up in Calcutta, and Calcutta is a city which is very very passionate about tea. Like I remember my mom would send me to the market for loose tea, and there would be a percentage of liquor and flavor, no liquor and flavor cha, and everyone would have their own thing. And then there the Darjeeling drinkers would be
Yeah.
as much obsessed about it as single malt drinkers, if not more, and
Absolutely.
never milk with it. But if you come to other parts of the country, like for example Mumbai, because of the Maharashtra and Gujarati, everything, it's about this entire masala cha and
Yeah.
the milk. There's more milk, less tea, and then what goes into all of that. So I think that there's a lot, and that's what these tea shops have done. Like this comparatively new chain Chayos or the Unilever had set up this thing
Yeah.
called Bombay, Taj Tea House. I don't know if you're familiar with it in
Yeah.
Bandra where I stay. So giving all these different ranges, I think it just makes tea a bit more contemporary. In fact, I remember years back when I was to work with FCB Ulka, early 2000s in advertising, the tea board had actually approached them with a brief to contemporize tea, like make it more catchy to the youth, because that's when coffee shops and this thing. So, is this what both of you do now? Because both of you worked in finance earlier. So, have you both left all of that and you're now running your company?
Yes.
Yeah. Now Chaika is pretty much like a full-time job because it's a
And how
startup.
how old is Chaka?
We started it, in fact, on the day of Dhanteras on 2019. So that was October 2019. We had like say 5 good months before the pandemic hit us. So, I mean, technically we've been around now for almost 2 years, but most of that has been like pandemic years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But what happened after the pandemic? Was it like end of story for now, or are you guys continuing?
No,
So,
honestly, I wouldn't say it's been like super smooth with the pandemic, but there
huh.
have been ups and downs. But the pandemic has actually aided to our favor because You want chai and you want chai that's hygienic. So we have Chaika for you. You can sanitize the sachets. You can boil your own hot water and make it. And I was down with COVID like a couple of days back. And that's when I realized for the ones who are down with COVID, you're in a room with a jug of hot water and you want your chai. No one can keep getting you chai, maybe chai twice a day. So this is a very convenient thing to use. And
Sorry, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you're okay and we're
no,
not
no, I'm
disturbing you from a
fine.
rest, you know.
I'm completely fine now. So
It's
thank
so
you.
reassuring to hear that. Yes.
But for those like because when you were done with COVID, you want something that's soothing and you want
I
it's
know.
quick and you have to unfortunately help yourself because no one can help you. So Chaika was a bliss that time. So pandemic has actually been, I won't say completely good, like, but it has been where we've increased sales, we've increased our digital presence, we've increased even our retail footprint, export footprint, and so on.
So this is Ardita. Before I go to you on this, if you remember when we first had our Instagram chats on this,
Yeah.
I told you that even and you know you were talking of throat. So that's simply one of the reasons why I picked up the Bombay cutting because it has adrak, ginger.
Yeah.
So it's always soothing, and clove and cinnamon and all that. So remember I told you at that time, Ardita, that one is of course the extreme case and hopefully it doesn't happen to too many people, but home isolation because of COVID, which Devanshi said. But even otherwise, like with all of us working from home now, like, and people are used to their chai, and now there's no Ramu from the canteen to come in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with all hands at deck, you can't ask someone to make your tea. I mean, they'll say go take a jump, and you can't really call in tea from the chai wala. You can't go down for the chai
Yeah.
wala. You can't really. I mean, you can Swiggy or Zomato in tea, but we
Yeah.
we do that for cappuccino. So, for example, we have a coffee machine, and I'm a coffee drinker. I drink just 2 cups in a day, morning and a decaf. But I just felt that having these sort of packs around. So then, even if one is working by oneself or this thing, you just go and take them out, and it's different things. So and I think that that's how it's going to be for a while. And I also feel that when offices open, there would be people doing what say I used to do with the old town thing, that take your own
Yeah.
stuff, garam pani. So Aditya, what's been your experience about post lockdown and I mean lockdown and pandemic and then running the business?
So, initially it was really, really difficult for us because we're a startup. So it wasn't like we had a huge team at our disposal
Mm.
and all the, equipment to do the work from home. So, and we didn't even really have that much of funds to like tell our small team that here we'll supply laptops to all of you. So it was really a difficult task. And what actually worked in our favor at that time was that we changed our strategy a little bit. So we started focusing more on digital. At that point, we were driving towards retail. So we switched towards digital. So now, we got our own website, an e-commerce website, and we started increasing our ad spend on Facebook and Instagram to sort of give some more visibility to the product. We got on Big Basket Calcutta, which is doing really well. We got on Food Hall across the country because they do like home delivery and
Yes.
all of that. So we thought that would be helpful, and that has actually paid off pretty well so far. And another thing that we did was something on the lines of what you just mentioned, is that we started selling these bulk packs of sachets to offices and even homes, like anybody who
Yes.
wants this in bulk. um, they can just buy like say 100 sachets, 250 sachets or whatever, at a discounted price. So instead of say 140 for a box, they could
Mm.
get say a corporate pack of 100 sachets at around 1200 rupees. So that works out at 12 a sachet
And it
instead of
makes
40.
sense because see, this has a good shelf life. So you
Yeah.
would buy, like for example, our coffee pods. We
Yeah.
buy them and then we keep it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Go. Sorry,
Exactly.
sorry for interrupting. Go
So,
on.
so we had like a lot of offices start buying this because, this way it was like kind of contactless. Because even if an office had a peon, you don't necessarily want somebody else touching your food and in these COVID times. So then offices just started getting electric kettles, disposable, paper cups, and these sachets. and they leave it like, they have like this chai corner, and the employees can go and make their own tea. And that we've seen has like really, really picked up. A lot of offices are now buying these bulk packs from us. And I think that concept was sort of a game changer for us in the lockdown. So we actually, instead of like, so for us, it was kind of make or break, like, because we were only 5 months in. But touch wood, our sales increased, the company's grown since then. And in fact, we've now also reached out to two new export markets. We are now available in Singapore and in UAE.
So I used to get Old
that's,
Town coffees from Singapore.
yeah.
And now, next time when I go, a few days back, I dreamt about being in Singapore. I've been to Singapore 8 or 9 times in my working career to eat. So next time, maybe I'll take Chaika. Instead of getting Old Town, I'll take Chaika to Singapore.
Or if you forget it, you can pick it up in Singapore also now.
That only a Bengali will do. A Marwadi will never do it, given the exchange.
Exactly.
No, but once I bought an Anthony Bourdain book in Sydney, and I knew it was going to release in India. It was the new one, Medium Raw. It was way, way more expensive at Sydney, but yeah. But that's amazing. You said Big Basket, Calcutta.
Yeah.
I'm interested to ask you this to both of you, because sometimes we have these preconceived notions. Like, for example, I have a notion that Calcutta is the tea Puritans. Like all my Bengali friends here, আমি খালি এই জায়গাটা থেকে দার্জিলিং কিনবো, আমি প্রত্যেক 6 সপ্তাহে কিনবো and আনবো, and so in that, when you come up with these, which are like, in a way mixes and stuff like that, how's it doing? How is this good poriborton? Is this poriborton being accepted? Are people going to the brigade and protesting? Do people still do that?
I think, being very honest, it's a mix of both. I would say that people do love their first flush Darjeeling tea, Aradhita being one of them.
Yeah, Kalyan, like, I have to confess, I drink mostly only first flush Darjeeling.
That's fair.
But having said that, what I realized is Big Basket is doing really well for us, because what is the thing, that there is a taste for tea. So basically, Calcutta is a city where everyone wants their chai. So they might have their Darjeeling tea, but they'll also want their Doodh Wala chai, and they'll want their Doodh Wala chai not once but 3-4 times a day. So that is what's helping us a lot.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I've traveled a fair bit across the country, and again, these are conceptions which we have. We're like, the conception is that Calcutta is all about tea. But let me tell you, like Gujarat loves tea, Maharashtra loves tea. They call it chaha over here. So like, whenever I'm having a poha, I'll have it with a chaha, or puri bhaji with a chaha. I recently called for puri bhaji from Aswa. This is a Maharashtrian restaurant here. And I think I had made chaha from one of your things to have with it, and not my morning espresso. So that is a big sacrifice, I must tell you. Then Assam, of course, the lal chai, and Punjab. So I mean, everyone loves tea. We just think so. That's why I was wondering, why just Big Basket Calcutta? Of course, you've done food hall all over, but any reason? Is that more logistics and all of that?
Honestly, we're trying to list in Big Basket Pan India. It's been it's an ongoing process. And as for other retail, in the south, in Chennai, we are in a lot of outlets, including Nilgiris and a few other gourmet stores. Also, we are in talks, almost at the closing stage of talks with Nature's Basket. I don't know whether I should say this or not, but I mean,
all the best. Yeah. Spencer's, right? It's not Spencer's, right? Nature's Basket is owned by Spencer's.
It is owned by Spencer's.
Yeah, it is owned by
Spencer's. Earlier Godrej. Actually, we are both pretty close by. In fact, I must tell you, I mean, if you do with Nature's Basket and you're saying food on, so we often nowadays order in stuff from Nature's Basket because it's next door. Occasionally, we do from food hall also, but there's certain things which we just. So there's definitely a market for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're going
on verge of closing, basically, with Nature's Basket. And hopefully, like, basically right now, what's happening with this surge in COVID right now, everything's pretty much at a standstill, because like, people are unwell. In fact, Devanshi was also down for like the last 2 weeks.
But I'll tell you that seeing her up here will give so many people, including me, courage that to see that someone's taken it on, and a young person, because earlier it was thought that only the elderly folks will be there. But she's taken it on. She's out. She's here talking about her business. I think that's what I like about Foodocracy for her, because sometimes I feel that should I talk about food at a time like this where there's so much suffering, but I just feel that when I share stories like yours or of many of the small businesses, there's so much inspiration for us. I mean, look at you. You had COVID and you're back here.
So honestly,
Yes.
there is a lot of weakness. I wouldn't like, so I would really urge people not to go out on the streets and be careless. So be careful. Like, we, especially the ones who are young, we thought it would be okay. We'll be
Yes.
asymptomatic. And that's what I was also thinking. And the new strain is quite bad. So it breaks your body. You feel really weak. But I think you have to get back to work. And that's the only thing that keeps your mind off, like from feeling sick. And it keeps you going with this lockdown, because then you don't want to, you're so busy and you're busy doing something good, you don't want to go out.
And sorry, I mean, it's not that they paid me to do this plug. And like I said, I'm not a tea drinker, and coffee is also like espresso. But the fact that, these are milk coffees, except I think the platform one, which is a black tea. And it really feels like it's a milk chai. And that, it also gives your body that sense of comfort and, a mug and holding it and stuff. Now, I want to go a bit, see, the COVID's going to go at one point, it definitely will. I mean, the world wars ended, the famines ended, we've eradicated polio, and COVID's also going to end. So there's more to your story than COVID. So tell me, like both of you, like, you went abroad, Singapore, France, UK, everything, studied business. You worked in like investment banking, is that roughly to say? Sort of thing, like financial something?
Finance services.
Yeah, it's basically all that glamorous money jobs with a lot of money, hard work. I was watching this interview of Mahua Raichaudhuri, a politician from Bengal, by Karan Thapar. I think she'd also started, Cambridge, London economics, and in the initial years investment banking. So very, very glamorous, hard work, good money, sort of thing. And then you come back and set up your own businesses. First of all, like, how did your families react to that? Were they okay? Because you're both, of course, from Marwari family. A high proportion of my Foodocracy for her has been Marwaris. Huh? This must be my fifth or sixth Marwari interview from different places. Jaipur, Bangalore, Delhi, Calcutta. How did your families react to this?
So for me, I think my family was like overjoyed that I'm moving back to India. But when it came to the startup of like Chaika, especially the idea of instant tea, they were a little taken aback. Like they were expecting me that if I would do a startup, it would be something on the lines of, packed CTC tea with my own brand, or some premium, like sort of gifting flavored teas, like, loose leaf, but flavored teas. Like, you have your Moroccan mint teas, all these like berry teas and jasmine tea. Yeah, apple tea.
We were talking about it.
Exactly.
The Turkish apple
tea,
yes.
They expected me to go into sort of that line. And instant tea, when we started conceptualizing this, was not a super well-known thing in India. Like there was Girnar, of course, but that was the only brand there at that point of time. So they were just like, okay, like, do people even know what this is that you want to like go ahead and do something of that sort? But Devanshi and I were pretty sure that we wanted to do something young. We wanted to do something contemporary, something that would make tea accessible to people like us, like people of, our generation who are...
My generation also. Huh?
Okay. Anybody who loves tea is lazy, or anybody who loves tea does not have the time to make it, is in a rush. Anybody who wants the convenience of tea, of just having a cup of tea without too much hassle. We wanted to make tea accessible to those people. And, that idea came about especially because with both of us, like working in these finance jobs, we had early mornings. Like for me, I had to be in the office at 7:30 in the morning. My market would start... Singapore. My market would start at 8. And I would have to be at my desk at 7:30 to be prepared and everything, so that, I'd be there when my market opened at 8. So at 7, when I had to be at office at 7:30, there was no way I was waking up 20 minutes extra earlier to like brew my cup of tea.
See, so that's the Bengali in you. That's the Bengali in you. So I only get up at 7:30 to feed my cat and then go back to sleep.
So yeah, so I would really miss it. Like I was like, I want tea, but I don't have the time to make it. And when we met in Calcutta, we started discussing that, and that's why we thought of like instant tea. Like, it may not appeal to a traditionalist, but trust me, I'm a traditionalist too. I drink first class Darjeeling, but I still love my instant tea.
Yeah, maybe it's like the IPL of tea.
I know.
Yeah.
What about you, Devanshi? How was the reaction of the
So it
family?
is just ironical because throughout when my dad would tell me come back to tea, and I would tell him that I'm gonna work on anything except tea. And he would just keep telling me never say never. And when I told him, okay, you know what, I think I've come back and I want to do a startup that's somewhat in tea, instant tea, he was just laughing. He was just like, I can't believe that this is what you're getting into. This is that one industry. You kept saying, I'm never gonna get into this industry, I'm never gonna get in.
Did he say who's your daddy now? Yeah, this is a perfect moment for him to say who's your daddy now.
I know, but like overall, they were really supportive. Like, so be it like my parents, be it like my husband was really supportive. So I think it's just been I would say, like, like just getting into something on your own, it had its challenges. And there were times when I was like, okay, I think I want to go back to a set job. Like, though the hours are great, but the risks are lower. But it was fun.
And for both of you, I'm going to ask you this: that when you started, and as like new entrepreneurs and from a very different world, um, were there any fears or apprehensions which you had when you started, or did you just let's just go ahead, like Divyanshi or Ardita? Any apprehensions which you had?
Yeah, definitely. Like, so especially because my family was so hesitant about the instant tea aspect. We were like, I was petrified of failing because it was like, I didn't want there to be a I told you so moment. And secondly, it was also that there was a lot at stake. Like for both of us, we pulled in like our personal savings and put it in. We didn't take, we didn't
Not
ask.
not papas or
Yeah, we
husbands
didn't
money.
ask our families for help. We wanted it to be our personal,
Yeah.
investments. So we put in our savings, and we both started this like literally, I think 2 3 or 3 months after we got married. She got married in Jan, I got married in Feb, and we started working on this, I think, by April, right, Devanshi?
Yeah, April.
Yeah, so we started working on this in April. So at that point of time, there was like so much change in our lives, like,
Of
moving to a
course,
new
yeah.
house, all of that, like we put aside a lot of time for Chaika at a time like that. So for us, that was a lot at stake. Like we wanted to ensure that it does well. It's literally like we call Chaika like our baby. Like that's how much time and effort we put.
If I might interject, the traditional notion, and I hope it's changing because it should, that नया बहू आएगा और फिर घर में सबके लिए चाय बनाएगा, and I don't condone it at all.
I think
And
that's
you
the thing,
and,
chai
and you
banana
actually
hi aata
started
tha.
creating a chai brand. Chai, what do you say?
I was saying that was the thing, chai banana hi nahi aata tha.
तो ये चाय का लेके आज माँ सासू जी ने लिखा. Okay,
Yeah,
now
we actually thought of a lot of memes with those like things, but we never carried it out because we're like, okay, that is really patriarchal to have this sort of memes.
no, I know. Okay, now I want to ask you one thing, that why did guys decide to work together? I mean, why not do your own businesses? Why a partnership versus doing it alone? Well, what have been the advantages, disadvantages? Do you guys fight, or is it always like yes, ye karna hai?
Honestly, I think it's been great working with Aradhita. Like touchwood, like
Touchwood, Devanshi.
I don't want to spook this.
yeah. But I think like when we started talking about it, there was a lot of ideas that came from both ends, and the passion was at the same level towards the product, towards launching it. And in terms of when you look forward, what we realized that what we want to achieve in life, where we want to take the brand, and how we want to take the brand in terms of vision was all very aligned.
Lovely. And is there, do you guys split your responsibilities? Like one focuses on one focuses on the other, or how do you guys go about it?
It's like, yeah, we handle certain aspects of the business are split, like certain elements Devanshi handles, certain elements I handle. And then I think when it comes to something like if we are entering into something new, like when we enter into exports or when we are like entering into like a new agreement with respect to retail, then like we sort of both get involved in that, obviously, because then that's a big decision. But the day-to-day element of it is pretty much divided between us.
Is there any particular pattern to it, or it's just like
I
in
think
some cases, some person focuses on the product, or the other person marketing, anything like that, or?
I think
So
it came about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so Devanshi, I would say like handles more of our direct to customer business. So all of our Amazon and our website. So that's mostly handled by Devanshi, and I don't look into that at all. And most of our B2B, so when we're selling to corporates, when we're selling to retail, say like our big basket food hall, or most of like now that the export stuff has been put into place and it's like it's just plug and play, so most of the exports, all of that is handled by me.
How the markets responded, UAE and Singapore? I'm interested to know that.
Oh,
Has it
honestly,
been,
exports
yeah,
have been really good for us.
Yeah.
So we are very enthusiastic to open up more export leads. So I think anyone who has an export lead is interested in importing Chaika or looking into distribution, we are very excited to have a chat. I
yes,
shouldn't
we
be
heard
saying
them.
you heard them, yes. But I think like what we realized was Singapore and UAE both have a large proportion of Indians, and they also have a large proportion of like cafe goers who want to try
Hmm.
the chai tea latte or like the Indian
Yes.
chai. So both these markets have been very, very like good for us, and we're hoping to get more returns.
Yeah.
And being in the trade, you'll know that they say that some of the best tea goes to Buckingham Palace and Harrods. So maybe who knows? One day maybe I might be at Harrods and pick up Chaika and get it back. We bought tea from Harrods to give to people. I don't remember if there was a brand or if it was the Harrods brand. Now, tell me a bit about like the product. Like, how did you guys come up with the ideas of these flavors? Then the technology of creating these sort of premixes. How did that happen? Because you are not technical people. So how did you get someone on board? Did you you get it?
So the flavors part, let me start out with, because so when we were brainstorming instant tea, we didn't want to be a copy of Girnar. Like that
Yes,
just did not make sense. So we thought
absolutely.
of like what connects tea to people, and we realized that India, like you mentioned earlier, in fact, in this conversation, India being such a huge and diverse country, like each state will have its own way of drinking tea. Hence,
Yes.
we came up with the flavors. So our Kolkata Kadak is inspired by the Share Market chai of Calcutta. It's very heavy on cardamom, and just like the Share Market chai, the Bombay
Is it
cutting is
Leon Street? No, what is Dalal Street?
the in Dalhousie, the Share Market,
Dalal
the
Street.
old Share Market
Dalal Street.
chai.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Dalal.
And the Bombay cutting is obviously inspired by your Bombay cutting chai.
The Bombay
Um,
Stock Exchange.
yeah. Then we thought of like, the highway dhabas of North India, which serve that, adrak ilaichi chai, ekdam
Ah,
like kadak adrak ilaichi chai. So we did a dhaba chai based on that.
the trucker's
Then
tea.
coming from Kolkata, we could not miss out the lebu cha that's so popular here.
Yeah, of
So
course, of
hence the
course.
platform chai.
And liquor, you said, like a good Bengali word.
Yeah, yeah.
Liquor chai, liquor.
Liquor chai. That got us into trouble when we were exporting because they thought it had
They thought
alcohol in it.
liquor, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is, I think that in Assam, the Lal Cha is also similar. The Lal
Yeah.
Cha, I've had it in Guwahati on the
Yeah.
roads along with the pithas.
So
Hmm.
after we launched this flavor, we realized that it's only in Bengal that people say liquor cha. Like
Ah, yes,
we
yes.
didn't know that. Like we thought that it's just liquor cha like that. So
No. Liquor and flavor, no?
yeah, yeah.
Darjeeling is flavor, liquor is
Yeah.
Assam. And then how did you convert these ideas into products? So okay, you came up with these ideas.
Yeah.
Then the next stage is to look at the feasibility and then convert them into products. So did you identify suppliers who would do it, or how did that happen?
So everything's being done in-house in terms of the production. And we were very like fortunate because our families do come from tea backgrounds, so we were able to get into this whole production aspect and figure out, so we got a whole range of tea tasters, Aradhita being one. Then we got tea tasters from J. Thomas. We got tea tasters from Parkon. These are other like, auction houses. And then we had like our families also had in-house tea tasters who helped us come up with the blends. And then we did a lot of something called blind tasting. So we
Yeah,
got different teas got made, then a premix versus a normal chai to see whether the consumers are liking it. Because being a consumer brand, ultimately we wanted to launch something that the consumers like, not what you like.
I'm from market research. My background's market research. So when you're saying blind testing and all that, I'm feeling very happy. Yes, go ahead. I
So
started my career in IMRB
we did a
Calcutta.
lot of market research before we finally launched a flavor.
Through agencies or yourselves?
Ourselves, like we had we literally did this thing where we set up a table outside Ravindra Sarovar, and we had
What, the
people just
metro?
taste the tea.
The metro
No,
or
no,
the
no,
actual
the
Sarovar?
lakes where people go to walk,
No, we
the
used to have a
morning walkers.
sports over there when I was in school. And the only thing I could ever participate in was tug of war, because in the runs I was not very athletic.
Yeah. Yes. So many people go there for morning walks, right? So we would
And
just
also lovers. And also the lovers go to
that's in the evening.
They would love the cha.
Yeah. So we literally set it up. We would set up a table in the morning, and as people would filter out from there, we'd be like, "Yeah, try our tea, try our tea." Obviously, this was pre-COVID time, so people were happy to try it, and we would take feedback from people, and like me and Devanshi would stand there and make people try our premixes. So yeah, it was.
I think we've done everything. We've like been very active with the market research with every customer who's trying it to get personal feedback, because we were like, okay, we have to understand the consumers in the market before we get into it.
So many people in Foodocracy for her, including last week Aradhita in Chennai, who runs Food of Joy. It's a Bengali pop-up. She said that this personal connect makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So I'm just checking on the watch for the timing. And years back I'd written this story on my blog. I was going for a market research meeting when I was in TNS, and I'd stopped at this place called Grant House, which is at the Bombay JJ flyover. It's very famous for schema. So I went there and had the keema and all that, and then I happened to meet the sons of the gentleman who set it up, a gentleman named Lakshman, who unfortunately is no more now. So he'd come from Hyderabad in the 60s to Mumbai, and then he set up this little corner at the police quarters over there, and then then the restaurant and stuff. So it was actually the police folks who told him that, why don't you set up a Chaika dukan and omelette and this, that, and keema. So then the sons told me that that the father, who was actually almost like unlettered, would go and keep taking feedback from his customers to see what is working, what is not working, what level of jhal, spiciness, what level of tox, this thing, and sour, and then came up with the menu, which is now a landmark. And I used to work in a proper market research agency as a vice president or whatever then, and I said that successful businesses are built on market research. Like, say, maybe a big company like Unilever might sort of get an agency to do it, but when they start off, it's really the owner entrepreneurs ear to the ground, and you guys have proved it. And I wanted to ask you about branding, because I strongly feel that for entrepreneurs and home chefs, they've got and of course very different. I mean, you're not home chefs, but great products. But one should also know how to market oneself and various things, like the old Kotler thing: product, price, promotion, place. So product, we've learned why you decided to do premix to appeal to the youth and things like that. Then kya hai? Place. So place, you've gone online, which is lovely. Now promotion and price. So price is this thing. So promotion is basically brand name, advertising, packaging. So let me take a few things one by one, because I really like what you've done. So why Chaika? Wow.
It comes
Chaika to means Chaika, no? The Chaika.
Yeah, it's literally a very colloquial way of saying Chaika time, Chaika nashta. It just starts with
Chaika time.
And also helps that it rhymes with Zaika, so like Zaikidar, chai or whatever.
It didn't strike me as a Bengali, that thing. But yes, Chaika time. Yes, Chaika break. Oh, lovely. And it also rolls easily off the tongue, and it makes it very clear what the product is. Now, I really love your packaging. Like, these boxes, and then the sachets go into it. Very, very. Have I held it? No. Sorry. Yeah. So nice, attractive colors, very youthful, like you were saying. I love the visuals, which make it very clear that what's gone into it. You want to pick it up. Stuff like that. Easy to read. Maybe not traditional tea packaging. I don't know. I've not seen that much. So how did that come about? Like, did you hire someone, or did you give a brief? I'm always interested to know about this part.
So I think, being very honest, like Aradhita and I, when we started out with Chaika, we were
Okay,
clueless
East Bengal colors, since I'm East Bengal.
we were clueless about branding, packaging, and we were
Right.
like, okay, we know what we want, but both of us have never worked in branding or packaging before, and so we really spent a lot of time trying to understand what we want, and we spoke to a lot of agencies, and a lot of them came up with this traditional tea packaging where you have this white packaging with one tea leaf or one line, and we
Two
were
leaf and bud.
two leaf and a bud, and we were
That's a
just like,
T-board sign also, right?
Yeah. That absolutely traditional, typical packaging is what we got from agencies.
and we were like, this is not what we want. Like, we're selling chai. Chai is an old school product. We want to make chai like fun, young, available, accessible again. So we want to go completely old school. And we want to play the whole nostalgia card, because what we also realized when we did our market survey, the chai is a very regional preference. So if I'm from Calcutta, I want my share market chai. If I'm from Bombay, I want my cutting chai. I want
And
something.
also, what you have it with? In Bombay, you'll have the cutting chai with vada pav when it's raining.
Yeah.
In Kolkata, you'll have the cha with maybe that neri biscuit, or
Yes.
a deem paruti, or a shingara. Oh, I want shingaras. Sorry.
So that's how it came about. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out what our story would be and what is the brand voice we want to put forward.
And yeah, so then how did it finally happen? Did you find someone to do it? Yeah, so that's another thing that often, like, when young people come up with things, they come up with ideas which you need people who are at the same wavelength. So when you go to an agency, a large agency, you also need the right people who sort of understand that thing. So how did it finally happen? Did you get like a freelancer, an agency? Do you do it yourself? I'm asking all these questions simply because there will be people who themselves are thinking of starting their things, and they look to these to probably learn a bit of the practical aspects. So how did you guys go about it?
So we had somebody young, a young freelance graphic designer, basically, and
From Kolkata?
from Kolkata. So we worked
Wow.
with her, and it took like several months to get this packaging correct, because like she was a perfectionist, and for us also we had like certain ideas of what we wanted the product to look like. So there were like few attempts, and then finally when we got it right, like even with her, like we have to give her credit for that, because she ensured that she kept going until both her and us, we were completely wowed with the result. Like there was no compromise when it came to packaging. There were like, I would say it took maybe like 3 to 4 months for us to finish getting all of this box, sachet, all these packaging elements designed.
Wow. Yeah. So I just paused it for a moment because the bell is ringing. Just 1 second. It's going fab. We're going to wrap up in 10 minutes. Hello. Acha, ठीक है. Sorry guys, I think I'm also keeping an eye on the time. In about 8 minutes or so, we should wrap up. It's being a fabulous chat, but I don't like to cut it for Instagram because 1 hour. Now I'll just make sure that I switch on recording, because there'll be twice recently where I've resumed and not switched on recording. Okay, what are we talking about? We are talking about the packs. I love the packs. Okay, so I'm coming on.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the packs, and they're very, very eye catching, and it I think connotes everything which one wants to know. So I think compliments to both of you and to your designer. And what I also got out of this is patience. Like when you're creating something so big, then don't be in a hurry. Like if it takes a few days longer. I mean, like a good tea takes time to brew. I mean, this also like this happens instantly, but
Oh, this is instant,
but
right?
this is like the grandchild, right? This is the new generation of the tea. So this
Yeah.
is the pressure cooker generation. But yeah, patience is required. So Devanshi, you're saying something.
No, I was just saying that's instant.
I know. This something time. Okay. So then we've covered all the four P's. Mr. Kotla would be happy, except in terms of pricing. So how do you guys arrive at your price? Like, did you look at the market because your costs? I mean, just to know the way of how you looked at the price. That's all. Because people often wonder how to price their products.
So initially, when we launched the product, the only other, like we said, the only other brand around was Girnar, and that was pretty much like instant tea was Girnar at that point.
Yes.
So even though our product is actually premium compared to Girnar, like we use premium quality spices and tea and all of that, we wanted to initially price match so that people would at least try the product, because sometimes people are just like, oh ye to naam bhi nahi suna hai aur zyada mehenga hai, kyun try kare. So that can be the mentality sometimes. So initially we wanted to price match, so that meant like really like we have kept a very very like I would say like a sliver of a profit margin for ourselves. But the whole idea is that at least we want people to try the product, start liking the product, only then would we want to like get the price to where we want like our long-term price to be. So our long-term price, we would want it to be around 170, 180, but we've initially launched it, it's still the launch price going on at 140.
Yeah. So that and how many come in a pack?
10.
Hmm. So that's, and then to the end consumer, that's like $14
Yeah.
full cup of tea, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I can keep talking with you guys because I love your story, but I want to fit it within the things. From both of you, a bit of your learnings about launching a business and then running it through such a tough time to people who want to do the same. So any learning, any words of encouragement, because you guys have done it. So you know.
Honestly, I would say that there are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be a lot of challenges. We face like a lot of challenges with people telling us, oh, अपने husband को लाइएगा, father को लाइएगा, negotiate करने, पापा को बोलिएगा ये करने, and we were like, no, we're two young, tough women. We can do it ourselves. So the first learning I would say is, especially for women, you are going to face a lot of things, especially if you enter a manufacturing sector or like a more male dominated sector where just be stay tough. It's okay. The second thing is, I would say, with every I know like the pandemic has been horrible, and there are different companies that could grow differently, but with each of it comes newer opportunities. So just look around. I feel like there are a lot of opportunities which we wouldn't have focused on. Like we wouldn't have maybe focused on digital if the pandemic wasn't there, and that has really pushed off for us. And the thing
Lovely.
is, do what you're passionate about.
Yes, lovely. And probably that's what's brought you back into action so quickly, having overcome COVID. But take it easy, of course, like
Oh,
you
I
said.
think I want to add another learning.
Yes.
So someone told me this really long back, and I think I'm going to do this with Aradhita and tell her that you have to like treat your, like you have to be like, you and your co-founder have to get along. It's a marriage, and you spend more time with your co-founder than your husband because you're okay working together.
So husbands and wives also bicker, huh? And I'm sure you guys also know that. So it's okay. Aradhita is blushing, but they work partners. So Aradhita, what is your learning?
I think the biggest learning has been to not get discouraged when there are roadblocks, because especially when you're starting up, there's like a roadblock every corner. Like, you want to like, I want to launch a new product, there'll be like 10 roadblocks. There'll be 10 people who will tell you that no, this idea is horrible. But you have to like kind of believe in yourself and keep working hard to kind of find a solution for those roadblocks instead of getting flustered and being like, oh my God, now what do I do? Let me just give up. I think that for a startup is the biggest learning for me, because I guess like when you're working in a kind of structured job, there was always somebody senior you could ask for help. Like you were just like, okay, I'm stuck here. What do I do? You tell me the process, I'll do it. But when you're out there on your own, there's like literally nobody you can ask. It's just like, okay, we're stuck now. Let's brainstorm. Let's figure out how we can solve this. Because if we can't, there's nobody who's going to come and solve it for us. So that definitely has been like a very big challenge and learning for me, and the second thing is also like a bit of what Devanshi said. Being a woman in a very male dominated industry, you have to really, really know what you're talking about. You have to be very, very well researched, very well read, uh, and have all your credibility in place, because people will second guess you just because you're a woman. Like the Vanshi mentioned, we had people being like, oh, papa ko le aao, papa ko le aao, apne husband ko le aao. They wouldn't have said that if I was a man. Like if I was a guy coming in with my startup, they wouldn't have been like papa ko le aao. They would have treated me with respect. So I guess that is something that I don't know, like it's sad, but I guess women still face, and you have to sort of push through it and kind of like you have to work harder at earning that respect.
So, this is my little humble effort to the Furukasi Power series to do that. And you are not the first people to come and say it. There's been Pooja Dhingra, there's been Shireen of, Mayor of Fairer Foods, then Mars Pickles folks as well. But I strongly feel that what all of you folks are doing is going to bring in that social change. And social change takes time, but it happens when people sort of take the action, which is what you're doing. So Aradhita Agarwal, that's Aradhita Agarwal for you. That's Devanshi, Kanoi, Chitlangia. They're the people behind Chaika, and you can get this on Amazon. You can get this on Food Hall in your city. If you're in Calcutta, you can get it in Big Basket. You can get it in other stores. Anywhere else, they can get it. You can go to Singapore
website.
and buy it.
Our website, www.chaika.in. Guys,
yes.
Try it.
Yes, website, and then they won't have to pay commissions that much. And if you're running out of stock here, go to Singapore or in the UAE and buy it. But thanks a lot, absolute pleasure. And folks, please share this video, because I think these stories really need to be seen and heard by everyone. And thanks, Aradhita. Thanks, Devanshi. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kalyan, for having us.
Pleasure. Thank you. And take care.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.